Hi everybody, welcome to Breeders' Cup Focus. I'm Dan Illman, this is Mike Beer. This week's edition of Breeders' Cup Focus centers on the turf division. We're going to take a look at some of the top contenders as ranked by Daily Racing Form National Handicapper Mike Watchmaker's preliminary morning line odds. A couple of European-based runners top the list. Ulysses, recently third in the Arctic Triumph behind the super filly Enable, is at 5-2. Last year's Breeders' Cup Turf winner Highland Real is at 3-1. Beach Patrol for Chad Brown is at 4-1. They're the three main contenders. We then have a wide chasm back to the double-digit horses. Fanciful Angel, second to Beach Patrol in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, now with Chad Brown as well at 12-1. Oscar Performance, a 3-year-old at 12-1. Southern California-based Hunt and It's in the Post, 15-1, along with the late-running, long-striding Sadler's Joy, also at 15. Bigger Picture, a real hard hitter for Michael Maker, is at 20-1, and Frank Conversation is at 30-1. Let's talk about some of these European horses. Ulysses last year as a 3-year-old finished an okay fourth in the Breeders' Cup Turf. In his last 4 starts, he's got 2 Group 1 wins and 2 Group 1 placings behind Enable, who just seems like she is on another level right now. Let's go back to Ulysses' most recent win, the Juddmonte International, and we're going to see him ease to the outside, and he looks good in the lane.
Yeah, he really does. He wins this race relatively easily at the end. You can see right now they're just starting to get into him here and ask him for his best, and he's going to produce it here. He's a really nice horse, very lightly raced when he came over for the Breeders' Cup last year. He has improved as a 4-year-old, and let's be honest, Dan, it's a pretty good year to be a European and shipping over for the Breeders' Cup. Our American-based turf horses, they're just not that strong.
This is a very talented horse. The Europeans often come to North America. They make hay in these high-class races, including the Breeders' Cup, and in many ways, Ulysses is the horse to beat. Highland Real has got a high cruising speed. He's got an Americanized running style. He got a great ride in last year's Breeders' Cup Turf, where in the middle part of the race, he just spurted away, said, "Catch me if you can." Nobody could catch him. This year, he's got a couple of Group 1 stakes wins overseas. He was behind Enable and Ulysses and the King George. But we're going to go back to the Prince of Wales stakes for Highland Real. That indicates he's still pretty good. He's in those purple silks in between horses, and he guts it out.
Yeah, he really does gut it out here, because right here, where he's coming between horses, there's a couple horses surging up on his outside here. It looks like he's in a little bit of deep water, but this is what Highland Real does more often than not. He'll fight you right down to the end. He's never, he's not one of those Europeans who just goes over there and just reels off win after win. But they run him in almost every single race, and he shows up every time. He is such a hard-hitting horse.
But we haven't seen Highland Real since late summer. He'll either be coming into the Breeders' Cup off a 3-month layoff, or just about the other end of the spectrum. He might run on Champions Day in Europe about 2 weeks before the Breeders' Cup. Is it too long, or is the other way too short? Is Aidan O'Brien sort of stuck in the middle?
Yeah, he might be stuck in the middle. It's not. I don't think it's ideal either way. But I'll put it this way: I would take it as a pretty good sign if he runs in my Champions Day, he runs well there, and they come right over.
Beach Patrol has really just emerged in a division that had been crying out in North America for a horse to sort of just take the bull by the horns, so to speak. And the Beach Patrol going into the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic was a horse that he'd lose his share of photos. He'd win a photo here and there. He never blew anybody away. He blew him away in the Joe Hirsch. Maybe it was stretching out to 1.5 miles is what he wanted. He got a great trip and ride. He got the jump on Oscar Performance, who's down toward his inside. But he settles this thing very nicely in the stretch. He got a gigantic Beyer speed figure. Is this the coming out party for Beach Patrol?
Maybe it is. We'll see. He's going to have to go up to the Breeders' Cup and back this race up, and we'll see if he can do it. He does finish very well the final furlong here. He's running away from this field. Good performance. That's Fanciful Angel, the gray, who will also be in the Breeders' Cup. It looks like just getting second. Don't give up on the 4 there. The horse you saw coming widest around the turn there, that's Sadler's Joy. That's him. He wants to sit it out and make one run. This wasn't the kind of race that was ever going to come back for him. Beach Patrol just ran away up front. This horse is not without a chance in the Breeders' Cup at a big price.
And throwing up the contenders again, and we know it's very, very early. We're many weeks out before the Breeders' Cup. There's speed. There's Highland Real. Beach Patrol can be close. Oscar Performance can be close. It's in the Post can be closed. Frank Conversation can be closed. All of that adds up to pace for Sadler's Joy.
Yeah, and that's what he needs, though. He needs to sit back. We've seen enough of him now that you sort of realize that you got to time it right with him. You can't move too early. You got to keep him covered up and produce him at the right time. They didn't get to do that necessarily last time in the Hirsch. He had to come wide from way out of it. It was too far away. But if he can get the right trip, he can make a little bit of noise at a price.
Was Oscar Performance exposed in his first start against older horses in the Joe Hirsch, his first start at a 1.5 miles, or did that trip not exactly work out for him? He needs to be more of a freewheeling sort. There was a big long shot that opened up the lead. He sort of got suckered down inside by Beach Patrol on the turn. Would you give him another chance, or was that race disappointing to you?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be willing to give him another chance, especially in a race like this if you get horses like Ulysses and like that showing up here, because I think maybe he does need the early lead. But the other thing about the Joe Hirsch is, and he ran fine in there, he was a little slow going in. He had to improve to win. I don't think he improved enough in that race, and I don't know that I would expect him to definitely improve enough on Breeders' Cup Day against those kinds of horses. On the other hand, he should catch a nice, firm turf course. I think he really likes that.
After his Joe Hirsch win, it looks like Beach Patrol is the leading light for the North American-based runners in the Breeders' Cup Turf. But a tall task awaits him at Del Mar in the forms of Ulysses and Highland Real, two quality European imports. We'll see you next week on Breeders' Cup Focus.